We say to girls,
what is your podcast?
you can have ambition, but not too much.
Gonna be yapping and cackling away?
Naturally.
If I looked feminine, I would not be taken seriously.
I'm just a girl.
It's amazing how much you can get if you quietly, clearly, and authoritatively demand it.
Yeah. You ready for me to start?
Yeah. You hit record.
Everybody, welcome back.
Season 2.
Why am I in the back of my head, in my crazy brain, I'm like singing that. What's that song that's looks like we made it?
Oh,
Look how far we've come by. We are back. So
We are
welcome,
back.
everybody, to Two Girls in the Market. I hope you missed us over the break.
Our best hot girl lives.
It was, what was this summer? Was it Hot Girl? No, it's not Hot Girl Summer anymore.
Well,
what is it now?
It was hot girl summer, then it became brat summer.
Brat.
And I think it's very demure.
Oh, demure.
Is what we're going into.
Demure. I don't feel like I'm very demure. I don't feel like this is a very demure podcast.
We're very demure, very mindful, very considerate. We talk about the issues.
I don't know really actually what kind of summer I had. I would say I spent my summer just like trying to figure out if getting my house right or finding the right man was harder. I don't really know. Which, by the way, trying to find the right man and trying to find the right house can both involve a lot of hidden fees and paperwork that you might not be ready for. So sometimes I feel like people should just stay renters.
Well,
Anyway.
stay renting because maintenance. I don't want to deal with the fees.
Yeah. So I spent our podcast break like deep in thought about why I keep getting stuck with fixer-uppers. And I think actually I've come to the conclusion that replacing the roof of my surf shack here is probably going to be an easier task for me moving forward than fixing emotional baggage of people.
It usually is because you can actually fix a roof. You can't fix a person.
Before we get too into it, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of our listeners. You are our people, and we are so appreciative. If you're new around here, I'm Amber Haley. I'm a real estate agent. I live on the Big Island of Hawaii, and I'm joined by
Rebekah Daniels. I am also a real estate agent. Shocker, but I'm in Washington State, the Evergreen State. And I know that you've been trying to figure out what you're going to do all summer with your love life and your house life. I have been living my best life, taking a break from everybody. Summers in Washington are what we live for here because it rains most of the year. So when it's summertime and the sky is blue and it's just gorgeous, the weather is perfect, we are outside. So I have been hiking, I have been camping, I have been exploring, I've been visiting my family that I haven't seen in years, and I have just been really enjoying getting reconnected with nature and just decompressing. I did do some real estate at the same time. But yeah, I made so many plans for us for the podcast. I was like, I'm gonna post so many things. I posted nothing.
story of my life. I think you're winning. I think that you had a great summer, and at the end of the day, at the end of our lives, like that's what it's all about. Your experiences and how you spent your time and all of that. So I love that for you. The fact that we had a break from doing all the podcast stuff means that we can jump in and give it a lot more energy now. I think it's good that you didn't focus on that too much and you just focus on living life and hopefully having a lot of experiences that are going to turn into some juicy podcast content.
Oh, probably. We haven't even really spoken that much this summer. We've been disconnected because obviously we only talk when we're on the podcast because we're not real friends.
It's not true, everybody.
We're such good friends. But like I said, I've been living offline for most of the summer.
Okay, so I can't wait. I'm sure all the listeners can't wait to hear what Becca's been up to this summer. Now, this is Two Girls in the Market. So on this podcast, we like to share stories, laughs, and conversations that empower women in real estate and life. And we've covered a lot of great topics already. And I'm just really excited for all of the new ideas we have and getting feedback from the audience. I think people can expect really great things. I think we are going to get better at podcasting and hopefully tell some great stories.
I agree. There's still so many things that we can discuss. There's always new things that are coming up in the market, in the industry, in our lives, and also from our listeners. And hearing a lot of the feedback has been so encouraging. And I'm really looking forward to this next season. There's so many people who want to be on the podcast too.
Yeah. I wonder if we should have guests. We'll see. However we decide to produce this podcast, at the end of the day, this is a space about empowering women. Like our podcast is here to empower people. And we're going to continue to have those conversations that lift women up, whether we're laughing about like wild real estate stories or like wild dating stories or challenges that we've both faced, like in our personal lives or professionally. It's going to be empowering. Our careers and our personal lives and real estate in general is really just a metaphor for life, right? We've talked about this at length, how much we have both realized that dating and house hunting have a lot of similarities, right? So that's what we bonded over and what kind of inspired this podcast. So
To an
we
extent,
need to
yeah.
catch everybody up on what's been happening in our lives because let's be honest, it's been anything but boring.
Yeah. And we left on, hey, we're back on the apps. We're back on the market, back on the house hunt, the manhunt.
Yeah. So if you listen to our season 1
Mhm.
finale, and if you haven't, you might want to go back and listen to it right now. But we had some interesting conversations about dating and getting back out there. And we both decided to go on Hinge, which if you don't know what Hinge is, congratulations on your life. It must be really fulfilled.
So happy for you.
It
Must be nice. What a
Must be
blessed,
nice.
charmed life you live.
It must be nice. But yeah, we would on Hinge as a dating app. We both read profiles. And let's just say our dating adventures both continued after that episode. And I think we have some stories to share.
Yeah. I want to say that one of my favorite parts of doing this experience with you is all the texts that I get from you as you try a new app. You're like, Rebekah, what is this? How do I see my likes? How do I see my matches? Do you have to pay for this? And I always tell you, no, you don't have to pay for these things. It is so hilarious to me because Amber, you look like you're in your 20s, but your ability with technology is like boomer-esque.
Oh, I'm being
All
sold out.
the kindness of my heart because I love you.
I look like I should have Tinder mastered.
You look like you should know what's happening.
I'm going to take
And
that
you
as a
do not.
compliment. I'm glad that I'm here for your entertainment.
Yes, me too. Amber got on Tinder recently-ish. She got on Tinder. She's
First timer.
first timer.
If
on
that
Tinder.
wasn't clear, first timer on Tinder. But I'm glad that we're talking about this because today's episode, I think we're talking about all about marketing, like not just our properties,
Mhm.
but ourselves. And that's what you
Marketing
do on a
yourselves.
dating app.
So you're getting on Tinder and but okay, let's talk about house hunting. We're using apps for the house hunting, correct? You need to know how to navigate the apps. And Amber doesn't know how to navigate the apps. They're not very user friendly. I don't know. I don't know what's happening with you, but you're getting on Tinder. I can't. Let me just let you know, you don't have to pay for it.
I did figure that out.
Yeah, it's free.
But they really are like trying to get you to pay for things.
And
constantly.
Bumble does the same thing.
No, I've never been on Bumble. And
Oh, you're right.
I might have downloaded it because at some point I
Okay.
probably Googled all the dating apps and downloaded them on my phone just for market research. But I
Oh,
haven't
of
made
course.
profiles or explored or opened them all.
Okay, so it was on Hinge where you were like, I can't see who likes
Yes.
me. I like handle one and then I get to the next one. And then on Tinder, you're like, it just shows me that I have all these likes, but I can't see who any of them are.
Yeah.
And that's normal. So if you are also trying to explore the apps for the first time, let me just let you know, you do not have to pay for these things. They are free. They will tell you, oh, you have 5,000 matches. Pay now to see them all. It's a lie. They just want your money.
I
It
was
is
hoping that I
too
could
much.
only swipe through who was liking me. That's what I wanted to do.
And so that's where so you get swipe fatigue, correct? Because it's, gosh, I don't like any of these guys. I don't know if it's like when I got on Bumble this time, I'm looking through it. I'm like, oh gosh, I don't like any, like there were attractive men, but I am looking for a very specific person. And I live in the Pacific Northwest, and that specific person is very few and far between here. So
Yeah.
I'm swiping and I'm like, I don't like any of these men. These do not work for me. And I'm just like, I'm getting fatigued by it. Because there's like once in a blue moon, I'll find someone that I'm like, yeah, I would swipe right on this person. But on Hinge, and this is why we preferred Hinge
Yeah.
for this dating experiment, you can see who likes you, and then you just go through those people. And
I
that's
prefer that.
preferable. Yeah.
Honestly, it might be a little bit of an ego thing where it's, I'm not going to like you first.
I sent out maybe 3 likes, maybe 5 likes on this round.
So
Like,
you were like the first
yeah,
one.
I was the
then-
first one.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to sending out likes.
Okay. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty of like
Okay.
how we market ourselves and our properties. First
Okay.
impressions matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially because you and I both know we live in a world where you have about maybe if you're lucky, 3 seconds to capture somebody's attention, even if they're looking at real estate listings. It's like that first impression, that first hook is so important.
Stopping the scroll. So as people are scrolling through their apps, they're scrolling through Zillow, homes.com, all these different things. You want that first listing picture to be very eye-catching so that they stop their scroll and they're like, oh, let me actually click on this one and see more pictures. Let me see more information about it. So if you have a crappy first photo up, they're going to swipe away from you.
And we've
Same
all
thing
seen
for your person. If you have a crappy first photo up, they're going to swipe away from your face.
We've all seen those listings and those profiles. And Bekah so kindly pointed out I'm a boomer at dating apps and stuff. So to prepare for this, I looked up some statistics. I found some reputable studies and like dating app data and industry reports. And I just wanted to bring a little bit more to the table for this conversation today. I'm going to throw some stuff at us just to set the context for marketing ourselves on dating apps. So here's some stuff that I found that was really interesting about men and women and like dating app behavior. So for all the boomers out there who might be listening, who don't have a lot of context, this is for you. So this I found interesting, the gender ratios on dating apps. Apparently men outnumber women on most dating apps. That sounds pretty on point.
I believe it. I think I'm going to guess 65% men and 45% women.
Oh, that's pretty good. I don't have the stats on all the dating apps, but on Tinder, for example, it's estimated that 70 to 80% of users are men. And women are only 20 to 30%, which is like a huge. Now, Tinder is maybe a little bit like more male.
What
or
a
more
huge
male.
disparity.
The skewed ratio can affect like matching dynamics, right? So men need to swipe more to get matches compared to women on Tinder.
Okay, so I just looked it up because I was so curious on Hinge. So this is as of April 2023, the gender ratio on Hinge was 60.36% male and 39.64% female.
That makes sense, but still mostly
I think
men.
Tinder has a really bad rap. Most people who are looking for something real, like they're not just in it to hook up, they're not going to go on Tinder as much.
That makes sense.
I think that may be something that more men lean towards versus women, but also everybody does their own thing these days. So it's not no hard and fast rules. I tried it out back in the day. And
I tried it out for the pod. I'm going to be honest. So I think this will come as no surprise to you that men swipe right. So on Tinder, that's like a yes.
So that I like about Hinge versus Tinder and Bumble is Tinder and Bumble, you just swipe through. And Hinge, you have to actually interact with something on their profile.
Yes.
You can't just swipe around. You have to do some sort of interaction and kind of stop and engage with it if you want to.
Apparently, a study that was done like a few years ago found that men swipe right on about 46% of profiles. 46%
I can't.
of profiles.
I sent out 5 likes. So
no.
It's to say.
Women on 14%, which to be honest, like that sounds high. 14, there is no way I'm swiping right on 14% of the profiles I see. I don't fully trust this stat.
I think they maybe have bigger pools than you have.
That is very true. Okay, so message response rates. Women receive 3 times more matches on average than men, but women are 15% more likely to initiate conversations with their matches than men. So despite this, men send more first messages, but are significantly less likely to receive a response than women.
But are they counting that as they're sending the message with their initial match, or they're sending a message after they've already matched?
Yeah, women have way more matches. They're more likely with the people they match, but men overall send more messages, but are more likely to not get a response back. It makes me feel a little bit bad for the guys on the dating apps, but I don't feel too bad.
I don't feel bad.
Okay, so what do you think was one of the biggest factors for both men and women when it came to what they saw? So what do they look for?
Factors
That rules somebody out.
Oh, that rules somebody out?
Think like a little more basic than that. You're quick swiping.
Oh, quick swipe would be bad photos?
Height was
Height.
like
Oh.
one of the number one major factors for both men and women.
Oh, because the guys are like, I don't want someone who's too tall because then I'll feel emasculated. And the girls are like, I don't want somebody who's too short because then I'll feel too masculine.
Being swiped right increased by 70% if he's over 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
A lot more judgment based on their appearance. I think it really tracks with societal stereotypes that it doesn't matter as much like a woman's education or job title.
Yeah.
On dating apps, like, that doesn't really affect it as much as it does for a man. So they have a lot more pressure on their height and their job title. And women have just more pressure on their overall appearance, but people aren't weighting so highly what their job is.
Because our jobs don't matter. According to, who was that one? Taylor Swift's boyfriend's coworker. He made some comments.
Oh, yeah. I forget
at one
his name.
point. Something about women's jobs don't matter.
It does show you that deep societal conditioning that we all have, where women, we tend to be more valued for our ability to produce children and be fertile and look young and all of that. And men often tend to be more valued, whether we want to admit it or not. We've been conditioned to their status and their job and their achievements and their money and apparently their height.
Okay. So I do have, I made an interesting realization in this whole process that kind of goes in line with that, I think. And this maybe, some people could see this as embarrassing. I just see it as facts. All right. Anyways, let me get into it. Back when I first got on Hinge, I was younger. I was under 30. This is for the first time back in the day. I was under 30 and I did not post about, I'm looking for somebody who's a Christian on my profile.
So
and I would
that's probably a big factor for a lot of people.
But I didn't post anything about it on there. And so I would get like 300 likes a day back then. To now, in this whole social experiment, I think I got 300 in the first month. And this is with being 35 in the Pacific Northwest. It's very secular here. And I post on there that I'm looking for somebody who is a Christian, my main things. And I thought it was very interesting to see this difference in response amounts based on like when I was younger, a little bit more broad range of interest, and also in the South. Even when I did put that I wanted a Christian man on there, it was a little bit more, people were more receptive to it. I got less likes, but it was still a decent amount compared to now. It was so much less. And I thought that was an interesting personal data fact because I did go through and I like screenshotted a lot of things, analyze it.
Interesting.
But
I mean, that really goes along with the concepts of marketing, right? Sometimes it's not best to just be exposed or be out there, even with a real estate listing. Think about it. What's the point of having 1 million buyers come in and tour your house if they're not qualified buyers? I think most real estate agents would rather get 1 or 2 qualified, pre-approved buyers in a house than have a wildly successful open house where they get 300 people in that none of them were actually qualified.
Yeah, so it's the quantity versus quality approach. If you want to have a ton of matches, if you want to get a ton of buyers or different people, you could keep it super generic, super open and simple for everybody. But is that going to actually bring you your ideal client or your ideal buyer or your ideal partner? Probably not. Maybe eventually, but you're going to have to sift through so many more people to try to find that right person.
I think it really depends on what people's relationship goals are, right? Women are more likely to be seeking long-term relationships on dating apps, while men are 33% more likely to use dating apps for casual or short-term hookups and relationships.
I'm shocked by this.
There are conflicting studies on this. So if you're a man and you're listening, shout out, we love our male listeners. But there are some conflicting stats. So some studies show that actually about 52% of men that are out there on the apps are also seeking long-term partners. So that does bust a little bit of the myth that all men are just out there for short-term Tinder swipes. And then you mentioned dating app fatigue a little bit, a swiping fatigue. About 40% of women report experiencing dating app fatigue after extended use. Men, however, report fatigue Not from all of their extended use of all that, but mainly due to lack of matches or responses. They get fatigued by not getting messages and responses. Across the board on all the dating apps, men and women are both reporting very high levels of ghosting, around 50 to 60%, and attribute it to the nature of dating apps, how impersonal it is.
Yeah. And we already talked about ghosting, what all of our views and opinions are on it. And it's okay in some circumstances and not okay in others. I actually got ghosted. I think it was a mutual ghosting, though, on this new round of dating.
Oh. So what are you considering? What's your ghosting scenario? What do you mean?
We had gone on a few dates and I liked him. I liked him as a person. And I was trying to figure out if I could see there being like enough of a spark for it to go anywhere. I liked him and he had some good values, but I didn't feel anything for him yet. And so as I was also dating other people, I was sparking more interest and having better connections with some of these other guys. And my text with him did fall off. I was also busy, but I was just like, I'm a bad texter at times. And so he wasn't really putting a ton of effort into it. And I also wasn't putting a ton of effort into it. And then we just never texted each other again.
That is a mutual ghosting.
Yeah. 2 days later, I texted him back and then he never texted me back. No hard feelings.
It's a very common thing. But okay, so let's talk about your profile a little bit. How do we market ourselves like we're a prime piece of real estate?
Okay. I think just like with real estate, you need to figure out what is your avatar? What is your ideal client? What's your ideal partner? So what does that person look like? What do they like? What do they do? And what do you like and what do you do? And how does that overlap together? My core values, I'm looking for somebody who shares my faith. And that's like a deal breaker for me, for the type of life that I want. So this just lets them know straight up front, hey, this is a deal breaker. It's not done in a negative way, though. I think that's really important, is that you can put your deal breakers out there, but not doing it in a negative way is super key. You smoke, if you drink, if you this, if you that. Why? I don't want to see whining on your profile. Immediately, no.
Bekah, I love that you just brought that up, because I will say, when I very first posted my Hinge profile and I sent it to a different friend for some feedback, the feedback I got right off the bat was, it's pretty negative and it's mostly about your dog. And I was like, great, fine with it. And then I started to see, like, when I was going through other people's profiles, I'm like, oh, you can see very clearly somebody just hurt you.
Yeah. Like
writing their profile about all the things. And I was like, yeah, I guess I was doing that. I slowly eased off and made mine a little bit more positive. Just more what I was looking for, rather than having it be like an anger rant at all the men who have wronged me in my past. But it's funny, you can tell those profiles.
Oh, yes. One guy who sent me a match, he said on there, what I really want to know is what your relationship is like with your father. And I'm like, that's weird. That's a really weird thing to put on your profile. I guess that you don't want somebody with daddy issues, or maybe you do. I don't know, but that's weird to put on your profile.
That is really weird.
So I'm not saying you can't put weird things on there, because I think that I think we're all weird in our own ways, and we get to find somebody who matches our weird. Yeah. So like, I do have outdoorsy things on mine. I have a hiking picture. I have a camping picture. I have on there, hey, we could do this together. So I think putting your interest out there that you want to share with another person. So if that's a hobby that you would like to have with someone else, put it on there. Putting your humor, if you have humor, or putting what you're serious about, if you're a more serious person, put that on there. Whatever your vibe is and the type of vibe that you want somebody else to bring to the table, that should be on your profile. You shouldn't do too many group photos. A couple
group photos are
show that you have friends. Yeah.
They're confusing. I don't know which one you are.
So your first photo should be you.
Just you.
Yeah. And then the next photo,
or if you're
a couple of other photos, you and your dog, but also don't have every picture with your dog.
My dog sometimes is my entire personality, and I take that feedback. I hear that, and it is valid. I still would rather overdo it on my dog, because I'm trying to repel non-dog people. But yeah, you definitely want to highlight your best features, right? Your charming smile.
Show
Just
you
like you would
smiling,
highlight a recently
full-length
remodeled
photo.
kitchen.
Yeah, they want to
Totally.
see that nice exterior, show a full photo, show that gorgeous backyard, whatever. You just want to have good photos that really show who you are as a person and the things that you enjoy and the things that you value. And
Yeah.
it shouldn't all, you don't want to make it too much about you, and that sounds weird, but you also want to make it easy for them to have conversation starters, what they can communicate with you about or they can ask you about with your interest, and also set up a way to ask you out on a date. So one of the prompts I put on mine was something about, oh, the best way to ask me out is by taking me on a picnic on a sunny day. Because that's something I like to do. I like to go on picnics. What I see so often is the best way to ask me out is to just ask. How many profiles I see with that?
There was like one answer that I saw over and over again on Hinge, and tell me if this is just a Hawaii thing, but I forget what the prompt was, but their answer was pineapples on pizza.
Let's argue about this, or let's debate this topic. Pineapple doesn't go on pizza, or pineapple does go on pizza.
It's like let's be more original. So if you
Yes.
have pineapple on pizza in any context on your dating profile, I'm going to suggest you take it off.
I agree.
This would be a great episode for men to listen to, because I feel like we could really probably start like a male dating coach / profile auditing business.
I've thought about doing it. I actually
Same.
was chatting with this gal in Australia who I'm friends with. We were talking about this issue with men and dating apps, and also how they just don't know how to talk to women properly.
Yeah.
They just say really weird things. And we're like, we could start a whole like consulting business. We never
Truly.
did it.
It's like a different way of thinking men and women have. And something that we've joked about is when guys send reels. So if you send your friends reels on like Instagram or TikTok content or whatever, men send you stuff that they think is funny. And so a lot of times as women, when we receive that, that's a head scratcher. And then our female friends send us stuff that we know they will think I will appreciate and think is funny and understand. So a lot of it's probably just like different ways of thinking. And some people could certainly use some coaching. I could use some coaching too. If anyone wants to coach me on this stuff, like I'm here for it.
It's what I do on a weekly basis, Amber.
Yes. Thank goodness for all of my friends doing the Lord's work and saving me a lot of money in therapy. Although I do spend a lot of money on therapy too. Anyway.
So I actually have audited some of my friends' profiles for them. And I'll go through and I help them build their profiles.
Okay.
Men and women. And it's been fun. It's something I enjoy too.
Admittedly, when I was like a little negative or a little too much with my dog, I intentionally wanted to repel people. Part of that is because we all know, if you've listened to like probably one single episode of this podcast, or if you know me in real life, that I have pretty bad dating and relationship anxiety. So I'm just like always trying to repel. But it's also because I just don't want to waste too much time either. I connected my Instagram because my Instagram's weird and quirky, and I'd rather you just know that about me now that I do weird stuff on the internet. Let's get that out in the open now. I put a little bit of what way I skewed politically. I seem to get all kinds of responses, but I'd rather just get that out so it's not a surprise later. It's also really important to me to look like my photo. So I'm not going to do filters and stuff like that, because I don't appreciate when people have 10-year-old photos or if totally filtered and you show up and you're like, who is this? And I also want to leave like a little bit of mystery. I don't want to say everything about myself. I want them to be intrigued and want to know more. So that was my strategy with the profile. But you went on, I'm going to say, undeniably more dates than me and probably matched with more people than me. And I'm sure you have some fun stories. Was anybody totally different than their profile? Was anybody just so spot on? Did anybody surprise you? Did anybody stand you up? Did anybody, you realize you went on a date with them 3 years ago? Do you have anything to share?
Yeah, I have something from all of that. Funny enough, there was this one guy who we had matched in the past here in Washington on one of my other Hinge attempts. And the conversation just never really went anywhere. So we never met up. And he sent me a match again. He's, hey, didn't we match 2 years ago? We just never went on a date. I was like, I guess I'll match with him again and just see if maybe it'll go better this time. So I matched with him again. And we end up setting up a date pretty quickly because I'm like, I'm not really trying to do all the small talk for weeks and weeks. And then when we were confirming our date for the next day, I texted him again and I was like, hey, sorry to make this an awkward question. I was like, I didn't see anything about God in your profile and I just wanted to see like where you stand. Oh, don't worry. I saw your profile. So we end up meeting for the date and he was nice enough, but he had catfished me on the religion side of things because he was like a completely different religion. And I was like, why did we go through this whole rigmarole?
Yeah.
When you knew that this was something that was like a deal breaker.
That's the pitfalls of dating apps. And also, I think whether on dating apps or not, I'm realizing the more experience I get with dating is that sometimes we say things because maybe it feels good in the moment. Maybe he didn't really realize like how serious you were about it, or he just didn't care. I just think that's going to be something that you run into besides just maybe real full-on catfishing is stuff like that. Oh, you really meant that? Oh, I thought you just... And some people, they just want somebody who maybe is part of some religion or spiritual, and they don't really realize how big of a deal breaker that is for you.
Which I definitely see that on a lot of profiles up here. A lot of people are spiritual, and that means different things for different people. Now, I do have another one that is maybe less of an esoteric catfish, more of an actual catfish story. This is from when I did Bumble the first time around. And so I've been on the apps for a few years. In case we haven't already realized this, I've been in the dating scene for a while, and I've learned a lot through my experiences. And that's why this time around, I've taken a much more surgical and tactical approach to things.
Surgical.
Because of everything that I've experienced up to this point, I'm like, we're not playing any games this time. I think we know that I have a type that I'm attracted to. You called me out for this in the past.
Abs.
I like abs.
Abs and Jesus.
Why can't we have both? So this
can.
man, he had abs in his photo. And I was like, he's cute. Like we matched, we were chatting. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be out with friends tonight. So I was like, do you want to meet me out after work? And so he's, sure, I will come meet you out. This man, I think his photos were from like 5 years prior to this. He did not look the same. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah, you need a recent photo.
Recent photos.
You could have some nostalgia ones if it's very clear. But I also very intentionally took a photo of myself that week and put it on. Because I feel like my appearance changes within the course of a year.
Your photos should be within the last 6 months, a year max.
Yeah, or at least the majority of them.
I don't think you should have anything on there over a year old.
More recent is definitely better. This is also
if it's
real estate agents. Talking to myself,
real estate
too.
Agents? Yeah.
I need to update my photos. We are notorious about not updating our photos.
So I met this man and I was not attracted to him in person.
Oh,
he just stood around and didn't talk to anybody. So we were like, we're going to this other spot. We'll meet you there. And then we did not meet him there.
Oh,
I feel it wasn't my proudest moment.
No.
I've learned I wasn't very nice.
No, but you know what? You have taught me so many times, like, clarity is kindness. I struggle with telling people I'm not interested in them. That's why I'm just like, please don't ask me out all the time. Because I have such a hard time with that uncomfortable situation. But you're always like, clarity is kindness. So you've grown and learned from that.
This was 10 years ago.
I just think that's just a normal lack of maturity that a lot of people show. And I'm sure this man is probably okay today. He might still be thinking about it. I don't know.
I doubt he even remembers me.
I bet he does.
If I saw him on the side of the street, I'd be like, do I know him? I don't know. But let's talk about, outdated photos on listings. Photos. No, don't use the old listing agent's photos when you're relisting it. Real estate agents, you should have new headshots every single year, unless you have not changed at all. My hair changes from month to month. So I need to have more up-to-date things since my style is ever changing in some ways. And to your point of what you said about unless it's something that you're super passionate about for your dating profile, if it's more than a year old, are you actually super passionate about it?
I'm
Been
just
involved
thinking,
in it, are you super passionate about it?
Some people maybe just don't have a lot of photo, like maybe they love their boat.
You go
They
take
have
other
a photo of
photos.
them on the boat, but they're just not a big photo person, so they have a photo of them on their boat from 2 years ago. I'll accept that if you still look like that. But yes, you do. Yes,
To
we're getting
still
into the weeds.
look like that. I'm not going to post photos of me from when I was 30. I still look relatively the same, but also I don't.
Another thing, we see a lot of the same answers. So I think if you can infuse it with more personality, you don't have to give your life story, but just like more personality than just the same answer, generic answer that we see over and over again. And I'm also really put off by people who are like overtly sexual on dating apps. Like I
Oh,
know
yeah.
that it's a place for a lot of different types of people looking for a lot of different types of things.
But a lot of apps that are specifically for that,
Yeah.
go there.
Or I just see, I don't know if you see this, but like their first picture is them like holding up the middle finger or like just doing something really unattractive. I don't always take dating apps seriously either, but
Please grow up.
or to be honest, and I'm always still like evolving and wondering what I'm looking for too. But if you're on a dating app where you're like still trying to figure it out, what is you doing on this app? Figure it out.
Yeah.
You're still trying to figure it out. I know we're
Wait.
all still trying to figure it out, but figure it out a little bit more than that.
Okay.
On Tinder, for example,
I'm
it's
still
tier
figuring
for
out
short-term,
options.
long-term, life partner, monogamy, polyamory, whatever. And then there's just like figuring it out.
We
It's
kind
going
of
to be a
don't.
no for me.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to lie to me. All the men
Mhm.
do that say they're looking for a life partner when really they are to figure it out. No, they're not trying to figure it out. They know it's figured out. They're not looking for a life partner at this time.
But they don't want to say that because
Yeah,
they don't
so-
care. They just want to use you for the moment.
I don't want to be told what I want to hear just so that you will get my time. But I
Yeah.
also want you to have it figured out and tell me that, honestly.
Mhm. Because there are so many other people out there who have the same mindset. If you were just in it for short-term flings, that's fine. Find somebody who's also in it for a short-term fling. Do not waste people's time.
Yeah, and I think you can be looking for your life partner and then meet somebody who's more of a fit for short term. But I think if you start dating them, that's something that can be communicated and brought up in a way that is respectful to everybody.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's not like you have to have it all figured out, but guys, girls, everyone, let's
Yeah, I
figure it out
mean,
a little bit. Let's be honest.
If I put on my profile, I'm looking for my life partner, and you are looking for a short-term fling, don't match with me. Doesn't mean that every single person that you go out with is going to have long-term potential. You need to be clear about the expectations and goals.
I think so too.
It's
Think
not
so.
like, hey, we go on a date and I'm like, obviously I'm expecting a ring at this point because I said on my profile I'm looking for a life partner and you matched with me. That's not what I'm talking about. Once you realize that this is not somebody that you see that with that person, don't hold on to them just because you want a time filler.
It's so true. We've also seen some like really funny things. Like I think between the two of us, we should. Nobody steal this idea. Trademarking it today. We need to make a coffee table book of the messages we've received, of some of the profile stuff that we've seen, because it is entertaining. If you
It
haven't
is.
been on a dating app, don't do it if you're not actually like trying to date. Certainly don't catfish people or play them. But I will say I understand why people, when they're sitting home alone on a Friday night bored and they need a hit of dopamine, download a dating app for entertainment. I do get it because it is pretty entertaining and we've had a lot of fun. We had fun with our experiment, right? I would say mostly
We
fun.
did. Can we talk about how spell checking and punctuation, these are also such important things. I had one throwaway prompt on my Hinge where I was like, I'm going to go low effort on this because all the men go low effort. And so one of my prompts was, one of my simple pleasures in life is Beats Bears Battlestar Galactica. Well-known office quote. If you have been on Hinge, you've seen 80% of men have this on their profile as well. So it brought me joy to put that on there. And let me tell you, it got a lot of responses. Because sometimes you just got to know who your audience is. And sometimes men are simple creatures.
Yes. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
He laughed at it. And I have the same on my profile. So I went and I looked at it. And indeed,
He did have the same.
he does. It's
Cute.
a random fact I love is Beats, comma, no space, Bears, comma, no space, Battlestar Galactica. Because he doesn't know how to spell Galactica. We got a few extra
GPT.
G's in there. And then Jim from this profile, his most irrational fear, The plain M flying in the crash period would be quite lame.
Uh.
The plain M flying in the crash.
Yeah. You gotta really you could ask a friend to proofread
It would
your
help so
profile
much.
because
Highly
that's like an
recommend.
automatic no. If also not having picture, there's so many automatic no's that it's what are you even doing here? I see why men in general don't get as many matches. And if I was a man, I would spend a lot of time on my profile because you want to stand out amongst all of these other men that statistically are in much higher proportions on these apps.
Check your spelling. Yeah. Check your spelling. Don't send a generic pickup line as your opener. Oh, you just copy and pasted that to everyone.
I do like when they message me. Honestly, if you don't message me, you're not going to hear from me if you don't message me first. If you can't put in the effort of sending me a message, I'm just not that into you. But if you message me something that's very superficial, your hot heart eyes fire emoji, it's going to be a no for me.
Like, why would you want that on a dating app?
And I just assume, because I know men are very, I'm not trying to say superficial, but I'm going to assume that you find me attractive if you're sending me a message, although apparently they just swipe yes on everybody. So maybe not, but I'm going to assume that you do let's go for something that shows like a little more depth or personality or makes me want to respond to you rather than just get the ick, immediate ick.
Yeah.
Tell me something I don't know.
Respondable.
Just
Yeah.
kidding.
I've seen that a lot. Honey, stop the car.
Honey,
This
stop
one
the
won't
car.
last. Has been listed for 60 days.
My little
Update if you're going to do that.
That's a mistake. Yeah, you got to update that. I think a good tip if you're looking for unique things to put in your listing thing is to really ask the seller why they bought the house and what they think is unique about it.
Absolutely.
Because that's probably what the next seller will think too. And you could use that same tip for dating profiles. I don't know that you want to go and ask everyone that you've matched with why they did, but actually maybe you do.
You could.
Get feedback from your friends. Maybe.
I think you should before you go live with your profile and be like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Also, you don't have to. I don't know that I passed mine by anybody this time around,
Yeah.
but that's just because I've done it so many times.
She's a professional.
I feel like an expert at this point. I'm like, it's fine. But no, I think it's good to get a second opinion, make sure that your typos are there. I actually did have a typo in one prompt, and one guy thought it would be a super great idea to correct me on that.
Oh, yeah.
That's not the way to get a match. Sending a correction.
A mansplain.
Yeah.
It's really not. So you were like, no, thanks on that one.
Another guy who I found very annoying. And then his next message was worse.
Ooh.
And so I was like, I'm out. I'm
That's
done
tough.
with this.
It's tough. But yeah, I gotta say, I empathize a little bit with these men because it is hard to keep up with women like us. We need equal level of banter. That
I
really
may be too
backfired
particular
for
about
him.
things. Yeah.
He shot and he missed.
But I told him that. And he doubled down.
Oh, no. You just don't double down.
No.
Don't double down. That's
You
pretty
don't do that.
funny. Whether you're hunting for love or property, the lessons are real. But yeah, we all deserve nothing but the best. We deserve finding our dream house, finding our dream partner. Hopefully you could take some of these tips and these misfires and maybe take them all with a little bit of a grain of salt. But
Also, live your life however you want. If you are a person that corrects people all the time, show them what they're getting on the front end. Be authentic. Be your real self.
it's fun to joke about. It's fun to compare this to our jobs and joke about fixer-uppers and
Yes.
listings that are too good to be true because clearly they've been very digitally altered. But there is a deeper lesson here. We're all about a deeper lesson on this podcast. Like I said, we're about empowering. So especially for us women, I think whether we're talking about relationships or real estate, our careers, whatever, it's all about us being able to take control and really know our worth and not settle for less than we deserve. So through all these silly situations, that's what it's about. Not compromising and knowing how to navigate it. And I think that's something that especially women we can struggle with.
Yeah, it's easy to get discouraged by the options. It's easy to get discouraged by the market, whether it's the real estate market or the dating market. I know this has been a super hard year for a lot of people, and a lot of agents have left the market because of it and have left the industry, and other people have been thinking about leaving the industry because it's hard. And a lot of people, they quit the dating apps and they quit dating and they're just like, I'm over it. So It's not for the faint of heart. We do like to make light of a lot of these situations because I love to battle pain with humor. But it is a good way to find some empowerment and some encouragement throughout these situations. No
Yeah.
matter where you are in the market on the spectrum. Yes, we make light. We poke fun at ourselves and at other people. Mostly at ourselves, I think.
Mostly. There's so
Mostly.
much. We do have so
Okay.
much material. But at the end of the day, I just really hope the takeaway for
Yes.
people when we do these kind of experiments is
Hmm.
just really understanding. And for myself, the takeaway for
Mhm.
myself is like that we're worthy of respect. And I think that can be hard to realize in modern times with things like dating apps and all of this that have really taken the humanity out of dating.
Of peopling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even a lot of technology has taken a lot of the humanity out of real estate if we want to compare it to our jobs. But we are worthy of respect. We are worthy of the best opportunities. We're worthy of a relationship that we want or a career that we want and that fulfills us. And I really hope that people, when they hear me talk about some of these stories that we can like laugh at, these missteps and different lessons learned, I want people to never be afraid to walk away from any situation or relationship, or if somebody's making you uncomfortable on a dating app or anything like that, but never be afraid to walk away, even like a client or anything that undervalues you because you deserve better. And that's
Absolutely.
like the bigger thing that I want to pass on to people. I enjoyed this experiment. I was also traumatized by it, but I think
sorry.
I think I've gotten better at dating and like better at knowing my value by challenging myself in this way that was like otherwise uncomfortable. So I'm really glad.
I'm glad.
Yeah, the experiment continues. Let's talk maybe a little bit about what's coming up. What can people expect from us this
We have so many topics as I scroll through our notes app. I'll share more little anecdotes, and I'm sure you will share more of different experiences from our lives and just talking about the impact of being a woman in real
Yeah.
estate, a woman in this world. There's a lot that's happening. There's a lot that's been happening over the last couple of years, a lot of changes. And I think it's important for us to talk about those things. As we've said from the very beginning, the goal of this is so that people know that they are not alone in these experiences and these situations. That's what the goal is from all of these conversations, is to let you know, like, you're not alone in your experience. You can get through it, whatever it may be. And we're also here to get through it together.
I'm excited to talk about some of these critical issues that are affecting women. We're here to hopefully tell you fun stories, entertain you, laugh with you, talk about some things you might not have thought about before, but ultimately help you feel less alone in the world.
And for all of our male listeners, we will probably talk more about our periods.
Yeah, always talking about
Yeah.
what phase we're in. I'm in the menstrual phase right now.
Oh, I'm luteal.
You don't miss another episode, regardless of what phase you're in or we're in. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. And if you want, you can follow us on Instagram at 2 Girls in the Market. And that's the number 2 Girls in the Market. You could also follow myself at amberhaley.hawaii
Or at Homes with Bekah, and that's Bekah.
Yeah, I want to get more feedback from you guys on what you want to hear and what you want to talk about. So a great way to get in touch with us is on Instagram. You can DM the podcast. You can also send an email to 2 Girls in the Market, number 2 again, at gmail.com. And let us know what questions you have, what stories you want to share, what resonated with you. And we're going to hopefully use some of those listener stories and requests and anecdotes.
That's it for now.
All right, whether you're navigating a new deal, new relationship, new dating app like Tinder, or just a new chapter of your life, whatever's going on, know that you've got this. We're all just girls in the market. We're going to have these conversations to remind you of that. And you guys deserve the best.
Till next time.
Love you guys. Bye.
We did it.